Welcome to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Siepen from the Village Church and Pastor Andy Littleton from Mission Church. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the podcast.
All right, we've got our biggest supporter here, Corey Gilchrist.
Biggest supporter,
yeah,
but he's not like size wise, probably not.
You could call it he bankrolls.
He bankrolls Faith
Over Breakfast. Yeah.
Thank you for bankrolling Faith Over Breakfast.
My pleasure.
Yeah, we should have had a celebratory breakfast.
Right, because that's
today.
what it actually says on the bankroll.
That's what it's for.
Yeah.
That and for rubber bands.
And for rubber bands.
Yes. And okay. I don't know if you're experiencing that. You are. Look at that thing. Yeah. It's pathetic.
So
Eric, let's order some.
We're going to order some rubber bands.
At any moment, this microphone is going to collapse.
That's absolutely true. It's a good mic.
Good mic, bad rubber band.
Bad rubber band. Anyway, Corey, thanks. Good to have you with us.
Yeah.
And
Thanks for having me.
And you know, the big news that everybody's talking about, and if we were truly just grabbing some breakfast down at, say, Alice's Cafe, we'd be saying, so...
Have you ever been to Alice's?
No.
It's right next to Ace Hardware.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. It's good. You can get a good couple eggs. Anyway, we would say, yeah, Chris Rock got slapped down.
By Will Smith.
By Will Smith on live TV. You all know this. Everyone... The whole world knows this. It's been commented on too much.
Yes.
But what do you think about it? Okay.
What do I think?
Yeah. Well, of all the interpretations out there, apologies have been written. Chris Rock's acceptance of the apology was a fake. He didn't really write it. He hasn't commented yet. There's so much buzz.
Wow. Well, I saw it on a replay and thought it was fake.
You thought it was fake. Yeah,
At first, I thought the whole thing was just
there's still
show.
There's still a solid conspiracy theory around the fakeness of it.
But did you see how well Chris Rock took the hit?
Well, dude,
he laughed and it didn't even look like he got hit.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Have you seen the hit, Corey?
I've seen the hit.
What's your opinion on the hit?
Real or fake?
Okay, so it's two actors on a stage doing a thing.
Yeah.
How real can that be?
That's exactly what I was thinking.
You guys are in the conspiracy theory.
Plus, like, there's a war going on.
Yes.
And COVID's still a thing. And it's like, who cares about the Oscars?
We need something.
We gotta spice it up a little bit. We gotta spice up the Oscars. Just go out there and punch somebody.
This is the going counter sensibility is that this was the Oscars are dying. There was a need to kind of get ratings. It's definitely not going to be bad in the long run for the Smiths or Chris Rock at all. You know, when's the last time you thought, what's Chris Rock up to? I saw the Bill Murray Christmas special. He was in that. That didn't really put him on my mind.
Anything to generate a little bit more buzz.
Yeah. Okay.
Get a few more dollars.
I'm gonna go against the grain here and say Will Smith had a little snap. I'm gonna say I think that's what it was. I think he snapped.
So I think he thought it was funny. He looked over at his wife and she didn't think it was funny. And you know how it is when you look over at your wife and she doesn't think it's funny.
Well, yeah, and then there's the whole like you're supposed to be laughing, that the cameras are on, and so what he really thought of the joke or any other joke is hard to say, but yeah, there's all sorts of you really okay. So here's the deal. He
has an opinion.
The other big thing that pops up on social media these days is so Jada Pinkett Smith used to be in a relationship with Tupac Shakur.
Yes.
Okay. So, Will Smith, and there's been documentaries coming out about their relationship, and there's all the openness stuff that their life is very exposed. And a big part that's exposed is that Jada used to be with a guy who would kill you if you stepped on his toes, right?
Right.
And Will, there's kind of this talk about how he's sort of the softy, but he really was making the money, and
Right.
and she kind of, went his way because of that. So very much out there in the world is that Will was not really her true love. She had a heart for Tupac, but he had the money, and that's kind of why she went with him and stuff like that. So here's a moment where her eyes.
A man who says he doesn't care about pop culture that much.
No, I never.
Wow, look at this.
I never said I didn't care. I care.
Oh, he cares deeply. You heard it first on Faith Over Breakfast.
I care.
He cares.
And so here's Will in a moment. Her eyes roll. He's faced with all these complexities. I think he just went up there and smacked the out of Chris Rock. I think it happened. I think it was real. And then I think everything after that became staged immediately. And all became, it got reframed, and so I guess I have a hybrid view.
Yeah.
I think real slap, everything else.
All right, so we have our guest, Corey Gilchrist.
Yeah.
And if your wife
Yes, this is where it has to
was
go.
insulted like that, and you had an opportunity to go slap the person, would you do it?
Would you slap them?
I don't think I would.
Would
My-
Colleen?
First of all, my wife
wish
can
you
hold
would?
her own. If she needs somebody to be slapped, she can either ask me to slap them or she can go slap them herself. The other thing is, my wife.
That is something that's going around. Is there's a lot of people think Jada asked for the slap.
How can we confirm that?
We can't.
I don't know.
That's all speculation.
It's
Second of all, my wife is really secure. If somebody insults her, she's not responsible for that person's pain.
Mm-hmm.
She
goes
can,
to the village.
She does.
Will and Jada don't go to the village.
She preaches at the village.
She preaches at those. In fact, this last Sunday, along with you, it was awesome.
Just a couple days ago, we preached together.
Well, okay. So
if somebody made fun of her hair, she's probably not going to want to get violent.
Well, here's the thing.
I know that
Chris Rock didn't make fun of Jada's hair.
Well, he made fun of her alopecia.
Her lack of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not within her control. She didn't choose to have alopecia. So, is she really that offended by that? I don't know.
This is the big difference between people that go to the village and people that don't, right here.
Right.
Yeah.
And they live celebrity lives, and we don't. Our lives are pretty boring compared to the glamour.
Okay. So we got to dial this back. Corey, thank you. Great answer. Great village answer. Now
right.
We need to dial you
Cue
back.
the outro. You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast.
Let's step out of that for a second and go, okay, so you don't go to the village.
Okay.
And you are celebrities.
Right.
And you deal with all this scrutiny. You're in the public eye. Tupac's dancing around on social media with your wife every day.
Yeah.
Could you see yourself getting to this point if you weren't in your current, amazing Christian community that teaches you to be okay with your pain?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably kick him between the legs.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's my wife you're talking about.
Yeah. See, yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
That's you don't have all these things around the tension's growing.
Plus, I've got a movie out. I want people to Google me and
True.
See, hey, Corey Gilchrist slapped somebody, but he also is a star of a movie that's still in theaters
about a fierce and loyal father.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a 2-for-1. I mean, it's publicity.
Yeah.
I definitely go. Yeah. If
what's
I wanted
what's
publicity,
the worst that can
I'd
happen
scrap
is a few people turn on you, but millions more pay attention.
Yeah, or somebody presses charges, and even more publicity.
When you're Chris Rock and you've started movies with Ice-T, you can't press charges. Like there's he stands to lose more by pressing charges than by not.
Perhaps so.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When you were in, what was it, Friday with Ice Cube, you can't press charges for getting slapped in the face. The persona you have created for yourself. That was Chris Rock, right? Yeah, I think so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But I just think we live in this culture now that's so up in arms about violence and up in arms about these kinds of things. And so now it's...
Well, this is the interesting thing. So in the news, you saw people... So people... it was Judd Apatow. I think yeah, I haven't read all this stuff deeply, but some people praised it, right? And they were like, good, standing up for his woman. Finally, Chris Rock's a jerk. But then the general consensus started to talk about it in terms of it being assault, right?
Right.
And then people started retracting their, nope, nobody should ever do that. And Will Smith came out with violence is never the answer. This is an interesting fact of our culture in the last decade or so. Like 10 years ago, somebody gets slapped in the face, oh well. Now it's like this is a good way to get canceled. So, but yeah, what do you make of the change in our perception toward this? This was toxic masculinity was probably the most used term I saw for it. What is that what it was?
Well, I noticed that a few female actresses came out for Will Smith and said, yeah.
I've seen more females pro than males, I think,
yeah.
actually, in just reading comments.
Yeah, it's been interesting. I just think it's a fascinating just commentary on our culture and where we're at right now. I mean, where we don't have any kind of values or morality, so we don't know what to do with any of this. We don't know what right and wrong is in this, so how can we actually determine?
Yeah.
I think that's a big part of
Yeah.
it. Plus, here we are talking about two people we don't know.
Yeah, of course.
And how they hit each other, or one of them hit the other. Like I just
now, how would you respond if Chris Rock had turned the other cheek and said to Will, "Come back,
hit me again
one more time"?
That would have.
Then what would we be saying?
Thank you. May I have another?
Well, then you would have been like, "This is all staged."
Right.
And plus, like Chris Rock is a pretty small guy.
Yeah, he's not a big
and Will
guy.
Smith is really big. Like, he was
one of the
Ali.
two.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Just by sheer size is gonna
You'd
prevail.
think he would have gotten flattened
Yeah.
if that thing were real.
Well, he did get slapped versus punched. It was a slap across the cheek. It was a hard slap.
Yeah, I think we've kind of buried this subject.
Yeah? Oh man, there's so much more I want to explore here.
Really?
Okay.
What do you want to explore?
Oh, I don't know. I just like is there a place? I mean, you guys are the pacifist church. Eric, you're the pacifist pastor. This is so rich. Like, what an incredible moment.
I love how my church, which is not the pacifist
I know.
church,
I shouldn't say
has
that.
become the pacifist
Here,
church.
rewind. The views expressed on this show do not necessarily reflect the views of the Village or Mission Church as a whole. This is merely their pastors talking over breakfast, and today they happen to be joined by one member of the Village. Back to it. As a pacifist, is there ever a moment for the slap?
Look, I feel that I can defend my family from harm, and that when my country is in conflict, and I can support that conflict, meaning I can go as a medic, I can go as a chaplain, I can still participate. I just can't take a gun and shoot other people. So I'm not the kind of pacifist that says no. I mean, if my country is going to war and I'm drafted and I have the opportunity not to hold a gun and fire. So
imagine like at the Gospel Coalition pastors group that we go to, where there's 35 or so pastors. Imagine that there's been just talk about Sue, about your wife, for months, and there's been some kind of. I just
stopped going.
Yeah.
Oh wait, I already have mostly.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what's the difference? But you
Corey's just watching this.
But you haven't stopped going yet.
No, I haven't.
But just imagine, and one of the pastors gets up and roasts your wife, and it's just been going on for months.
Well, then I would talk to you because you're the leader, and I would say, hey, we need to address what's happening here.
And I have to slap him.
Yeah, and if you slap him, then that's fine with me.
I gotta say, as a guest on this show, so I'm like sitting just to give the listeners environmental insight here. So I'm like sitting between you guys, and it's just you guys are just adorable.
Thanks.
Oh no, we're adorable.
Just to sit here and I'm like holding my breath and looking at the monitor, making sure my like heavy breathing isn't getting picked up by this microphone, but. You guys are just awesome. I'm just delighted to be here, just to watch you guys.
The new thing is normally we're just talking this way, and now we're like, oh, Corey, we gotta like. I feel like my my posture's all messed up.
Yeah, you guys are looking over for approval.
Yeah. Corey, we okay?
Do you
Corey, is this
approve
okay?
this conversation,
I'm just
Corey?
shaking my head.
And he's just shaking it back and forth.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I thought it was, I think, wow, our culture is really interesting. That's what I thought when I watched that happen.
It is really interesting. Yeah.
And we need the distraction, and faked or not faked,
right.
It's a nice distraction from war and
Yeah.
COVID, which, by the way, COVID is not a problem anymore because it was vaccinated by Ukraine. And so it's like COVID is where I don't have conversations about COVID with people.
It shows how there is a sense in which the way that we take in news is we take in whatever's on the top, and that is the most important thing. And so as soon as something gets kind of flushed down to the bottom, it's not important to us anymore, which is not good. It's not good.
I'm not being assaulted by data. Go.
Right. No, I appreciate the distraction of Slapgate. I mean, Deflategate was great because it got us through the summer. It got us to the next season.
That's true.
Gave us something to talk about. So, yeah, the slap is wonderful. I've got a friend, nurse friend, and he and I will text periodically about Cecil the Lion.
Mm-hmm.
And just at our outrage that nobody's talking about Cecil the Lion anymore. I don't know if you remember Cecil the Lion.
The one the dentist shot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And that was big news, right?
Yeah.
That carried us through for a while. That gave us our news fix.
Yeah.
I think the slap is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's a nice distraction, and we like it.
Yeah, it won't be around.
Even
long.
for guys like me who say I'm not into pop culture, I don't follow it.
Yeah.
I follow it.
You do a little bit.
It lights my brain up.
Moment of truth. Did either of you listen to the unfiltered version?
No.
Oh, you didn't
Negative. No.
Okay,
What's that?
I'm the only one.
Tell me about that.
So the TV producers cut the audio for the Oscars, but you can the video with the uncut audio is out there, so you get to hear all the inflammatory follow up, and then
there's inflammatory follow up.
Yeah, Will Smith is yelling at Chris Rock for a bit, and Chris is making some awkward statements. He's trying to readjust to reality, and yeah.
Okay.
So that exists out there. Okay, so I went down this rabbit hole further. Yeah. Did you listen to Will Smith's acceptance speech?
No, I read people.
So Denzel Washington pulled him aside, gave him some thoughts, and he went up and gave an acceptance speech where he tried to tie an apology to some degree, but also what just happened all into the theme of this movie that he just so he takes home the Oscar, right? And has this speech where he's trying to make sense of it all. Does seem very reimagined in his mind, which is all part of why I think it actually occurred. Anyway,
love makes you do crazy things.
It sure does. It sure does.
And there's some truth to that.
That's part of what he said. Mm-hmm. That's the only part I saw.
And then one comment I saw that was probably very telling was, apparently Will and Jada's relationship is open to anything except being made fun of.
Apparently, yeah.
I'd like to be a famous celebrity, and I'm everything except for exposure to the public. I'm good with. Come on.
So one more thing before we move on past this. I've been thinking, I really feel like this would be a good thing to do. So you know how we go to the store or whatever, and there's all these magazines and stories of these celebrities pop up for us, and we, where it's always like, oh, what are they doing? I think we should make an alternative news magazine about what we're doing, and it should only be fed to celebrities.
You think they'd want to read that?
Yeah. Because it's the reverse. Like, they don't know anything about us, but don't you know they want to? They want to know what it's like to be obscure.
You're an entrepreneur. Let's get this going. So maybe you can get some CRC funding for this.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Let's see. Maybe there's a grant.
Headline news: Pastor Andy preaches a sermon and nobody slaps him in the middle of his sermon.
Yeah. Guess what? Nobody cared.
Right.
Yeah.
Pastor Andy preaches a sermon. No one talks to him. He goes home and goes to bed.
Yeah. Seepin outside without bandana. Is he stable?
Totally. There you go.
You guys are great.
There you go.
You guys are great.
Okay. Well, okay. So, Corey,
here's another one. Corey Gilchrist talks about his experience on Faith Over Breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little...
Corey appears on Faith Over Breakfast, never interviewed, seething. Yeah.
You guys are getting meta now.
Yeah.
Real meta. Well, we should probably... Corey, I actually want to... I want to know about... So if we were all sitting down for breakfast,
right,
it'd be like, I'd want to know about your work and what you're doing and your actually, your ministry context. Because this is... We always talk about this as two pastors, but you have a ministry context. It's pretty profound. Tell everybody about it.
Okay. Well, my work is as a hospice chaplain.
Yeah.
So I visit people who are dying, and I get to be their pastor.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Incredible.
And my patients and their families are all different backgrounds, different faiths. Some that I know little about or nothing, and I get to learn and serve them and find ways to bless them in their final days.
It's amazing. What are, and I'm sure some of the people in the village know and have heard some of these things from you, but just insights from that work that you wish everyone could see or experience.
Well, the dying process is not like what you see in movies.
Yeah. How so?
It's not, a lot of people are not like awake and aware and lucid and comfortable when they're dying. A lot of people are kind of out of it and unconscious or in pain and moaning. It's it can be pretty rough. It can be drawn out and prolonged. Not everybody gets the opportunity to be with family.
Yeah.
Or with people
what
that they love.
percentage would you say die alone? Right. At least in your context.
Well, yeah. In my context, it's the minority. Okay. The minority of my patients die alone. Some people really want to be by themselves.
Yeah.
When I worked in the hospital up in Seattle, we had this program called No One Dies Alone.
Yeah.
We had these volunteers that would come in and visit with patients who were dying in the hospital and had no contacts, no family or friends. And the idea is like we all think like we want to have somebody by our side when we die. And that is true to an extent, to a point. In my experience, some people have to be alone when they die. For instance, there have been many patients I've worked with who are, like any moment this person could die.
Yeah.
And there's like 20 family members and they're all taking shifts and they want to be with grandma. And finally everybody's just so exhausted. They're like, we got to just go and get a cup of coffee. And as soon as everybody leaves.
Yeah.
So for me, I've been really curious about that my whole career. What is it about being alone or being with others, that helps us kind of make that final transition.
Yeah. That happened with my dad when my mom and I had left one night is when he died. Yeah.
And the way that I talk to families about that is that sometimes, especially parents, they may have, I think there may be a train. Is there a train coming? Are we next to a train station?
Yeah.
Raining.
Oh, it's raining.
Yeah.
You may hear the rain on the roof while we do the podcast.
You may hear the rain through the roof.
Hopefully not.
I saw the buckets out.
Well, we put them out as a precautionary. We did have the air conditioning guy come and fix our pans and everything.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see his work.
test.
Yeah, the ultimate test.
Yeah, this is when you are not the highly funded church. We've had plenty of rain coming in the roof. It's now fixed for now. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, so, parents want to take care of their kids. They don't want them to suffer.
Yeah,
so, the way I kind of justify that with families is to say this may have been Dad's dying wish is to, spare his child from witnessing this.
Or if you were here, they wanted to stay with you, so they were holding on somehow.
Right.
Yeah. And then they were able to just let that go when you went out for coffee. Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. So So you would want people to know that the dying process is more complicated.
It is complicated.
Yeah.
But being in hospice, I really appreciate the hospice model because everything goes through the lens of comfort.
Yeah.
We want people to be comfortable, and I think like we have both the medical technology and also the human capacity to provide comfort. Some people have diseases that are very painful, and there's nothing that can really be done besides giving them opiates and just, snowing them into oblivion. And then you just have like a not living person,
right.
but they're just there.
They're not in excruciating pain. That is kind of the redeemed side of those drugs, right? Like the potential to just make the sting of death a little less acute.
Yeah. But for me, I mean, I think that pain is a kind of an essential part of the dying process.
Yeah.
Because it's an essential part of the living process.
Yeah.
We can't, I think, experience deep joys if we're not willing to experience deep pains.
Mm-hmm.
But, we've got capacity to love each other and to be near our dying loved ones. And I think we should take that responsibility seriously.
Yeah.
And I visit people who are like, again, like whether it's politically or they've got some idea like, I don't want to get addicted to painkillers. It's all right, well, we're a little bit past the addiction issues here, but there's like absolutely in no situation will I accept morphine or anything like that. And it's like, okay, well, now we got to get creative. How are we going to provide comfort?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I often will help people, brainstorm those kind of creative ideas.
As a chaplain, interesting, because it's kind of the moral questions and stuff like that.
I mean, because you ask our physician, or you ask our nurses, and they know what they know, right? They stick to what they know, and but I work with a really good team that is willing to get creative to provide comfort in other ways.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's cool.
And I get to do, I have a spiritual approach.
Yeah.
How can we utilize people's spirituality to provide more comfort?
Yeah. Wow. Where have you found that people, what is the spiritual climate, for you when people are at that time, or, even families, and pretty profoundly different, or not? Like where they're at and how they're thinking spiritually, the questions they're asking.
Like different from each other, or different from like
from
what
typical
people
life,
think?
Yeah,
it is different from typical life. Most people who are dying don't want to like talk theology with me. They're not saying, in my final days, I just really need to understand the Trinity. What is the deal?
If I could, what's the balance of responsibility versus the sovereignty of God? Just if I could get this sorted out before I go. Yeah,
no, that's pretty rare. People want to, see their kids again. They want their animals. They want them to be assured, that their animals are going to be okay.
Speaking of a topic that you brought up,
they want to apologize for slapping that guy that one time on TV. They want to make amends.
I read something from somebody. It was another hospice chaplain or something a while back, but they talked about that there's a lot of a desire to apologize for things that maybe had been held on to their entire life, but at that point they're like, I need to. Or confessions. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I love you.
Yeah.
I forgive you. Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you, as you've reflected on this, what do you think that all means for, like, just how we all should view our faith? Eric knows what to apologize for, leaving that phone on the table someday.
That was another table. Does that table count? That was that wasn't the central table.
You heard it, didn't you?
I did hear it.
It was a secondary crime. It's a primary crime.
I'll visit you someday, Eric, and you can make amends.
I mean, that was like, you're the getaway car driver.
I know you're a chaplain and everything, Corey, but we've been trying to work out some issues in our relationship.
Yeah.
We know that you
do mediation as well.
You're a therapist. You have some training in therapy.
I feel like you guys need to turn your chairs in towards each other, away from me.
Done.
Okay,
you need to look at each other.
Doing that.
And you just need to use your words and tell each other how you feel. Like, let's talk about the phone. Because it's not about the phone. It's about something else.
Eric.
He wants to control me.
I want to feel like my position on this is respected.
All right.
Okay.
So anyway, Corey.
Hey, that was a good start, guys. Hey. All right, hug it out.
Later,
They're not gonna hug.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of microphone noise.
That would be a lot.
Walk around. Yeah.
So he went down the whole chaplain line, and I know that line because we're good friends, and I'm your pastor, and you're mine in a lot of ways. But Faith Over Breakfast, you're an avid fan. There are a few villagers who really listen to it and talk to me about it, and you're one of them.
Love Faith Over Breakfast.
So what is it?
It's a great program.
Why do you like Faith Over Breakfast? Like, why should somebody listen? What's so? I don't know.
To these two, we were adorable.
Adorable.
I did say that.
Why should you?
Yeah.
Why should you listen to the two adorable? Or why do you like it?
Yeah. Well, so I know the two of you in different contexts. So
Right.
Eric, like you and I. Like, you're my pastor, right? So I know you in a pastoral role. And Andy, you're kind of like my pastor, but I think of you more as my neighbor.
Right.
Because we live in the same neighborhood, and, you know, your daughter babysits my children.
Right.
All right, so now the connections are starting to come out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Faith Over Breakfast gets, it provides a new window into your guys' lives. And when I first started listening to Faith Over Breakfast, and you said, you know, hey, like, we're both pastors of these two different churches, and we're going to talk, but we're not going to represent our churches. I remember thinking, like, come on, guys, that's baloney. Like, you guys represent the churches. So what you say, you have to be accountable to that.
Yeah.
And I think actually I've been able to reconcile kind of my beef with that because, yeah, maybe this program doesn't represent the ideas of your churches, but you guys represent the ideas of your churches.
Right.
And you guys are entitled to having complex, unprocessed thoughts and feelings about things that are relevant or maybe not that relevant. Like, yeah, Will Smith doesn't have any real impact on our lives, but you guys have impact on our lives. And to know how you guys think about it is important. And that's important to me. Whether it's in a sermon or it's kind of just tongue-in-cheek, off the cuff, you guys are just like talking about it totally unprocessed. Just to know, like, oh, yeah, Pastor Eric, like, he gave a great sermon, but I actually feel more connected to what his thoughts on Will Smith are because it helps me put a little bit more humanity to him. He's not just a drone authority figure in my community.
And sermons by nature are somewhat already worked out.
Yeah.
Right. And it's an opportunity to hear when things are not worked out and when they're in process.
It's important to take the polish off a little bit and help give a little bit more relatability to you guys and also have that unpolishedness be a representation of your communities.
Yeah, there's no way that you completely disconnect the two. I think when we say that, we want to make sure it's like we're not bringing forth the opinion of Corey Gilchrist to other people, the Japan listeners we used to have, for example. And
you realize that, like, you are not selling a product. Like, you're not saying, like, you know, whatever, the slap chop, you know, is a great product for, you know, chopping up vegetables. And then you're like, well, I tried putting some rocks in my slap chop the other day. Like, you're not going to have a producer or whatever, supplier saying, like, offering a disclaimer at the end, like, please do not put rocks in your slap chop or that will void your warranty.
What if Will Smith came out with a product called the slap chop? Very soon.
There you go. There you go. Yeah. The slap rock, put rocks in the... Oh. Wow, it all came together.
Oh, my gosh.
Look
this
at
is
that.
Classic Corey right there. So... how about some topics that you think we should talk about? You're like, I wish they would just talk about this, and we never have.
The windows in that you would appreciate that the blinds would be opened.
I mean, I don't know if there's a particular topic that's like, I really want you guys to talk about. I have emailed you, and you've talked about it. I wish you guys would read my questions thoroughly, though.
All right, we got a complaint against our show.
I'm also I may be your biggest, supporter, but I'm also your biggest complainer. I've complained a couple of times.
Okay,
but it's beggars choosers.
Yeah.
You get what you get here.
How the
You get what you get here.
you get
Yep.
use your words. You get what you get, and you don't throw a fit. You
Yeah.
can tell somebody's raising children.
Yeah, you
I don't
roll
know.
with it.
Yeah. Okay. Respond to the podcast on animals. What did we get into that question enough, or what, did we
think
miss
so.
something? Or
Well, I think he thought your dog. That you thought his dog had passed away.
and it hadn't yet.
No, my dog is alive. My dog Bella, she just won't die. She's like an incredible dog. She's like 15 years old.
Actually,
And she's doing great.
I feel like I remember that it was more like a upcoming conversation, but I think on
Yeah.
the fly.
But that
Yeah.
same day that
Yeah.
I emailed you guys, I had a patient ask me if I believed that he will be reunited with his pets in heaven. And I was like, oh gosh, like, what am I going to tell this guy? Because, this guy ended up dying like the next day.
Wow.
So in that moment, I said, yeah, I think you're going to see your dogs in heaven.
Yeah.
I just said yes.
It comes up, as I mentioned on the podcast, it is probably one of the most common questions I've had from people kind of seeking and thinking about religion in our context here in Tucson. It's been one of the most common questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think it's okay to just say, we don't really know.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that moment, I was like, yeah, I feel like I need to just tell this guy yes. Whereas my kids, I've got a 6 and a 4-year-old, I might say, I don't know, and let's talk about it more, and let's have some spiritual formation around this. Like, well, what do you believe about God? Does God care about animals? Do animals have souls? Let's work it out together.
Right.
But yeah, you guys answered it pretty well. I guess I was more curious about, like, how do we engage the conversation with each other, with our children, and with people who are like maybe more vulnerable, that are really attached to their pets,
Such as this patient that you talked to. Yeah. Yeah. That's good. All right, Eric, you want to answer that?
Well, I just think what I'm hearing Corey say, that's a good villager, is that we need to take more seriously his questions when he emails them to us and really read them thoroughly to find out what he's saying.
We should print questions and have them to read instead of trying to desperately find the email mid-podcast, which might occur.
You guys didn't do a bad job. You guys, I
thought
this is faith over breakfast.
It is. Yeah.
It is.
It's unpolished, and that's what I like about it.
Unscripted.
And sometimes these things happen in unpolished, unscripted. That's good to hear, though. That is a good reminder, because I think when we do get questions in, we want to understand them well. We do.
And just to say that there's been like not that many of late.
No, we're not bombarded. Yeah,
we got bombarded a little bit, and we're supposed to have this author guy.
Oh, right.
Right.
Yeah.
That you're communicating with.
Well,
He keeps writing you and saying, "Did you get my book?"
Yeah. No, he is on it.
Yeah.
He's on the promo of this book. I need to read it because I want to honor Here's the thing. Reading an email question has apparently been a struggle for us. So now I've got to read an entire book. So Conley, I'm working on it.
He sent you the book, though.
I have the book.
Wow.
I have the book.
Does he want you to review the book?
Yeah, I think
promote the book?
Well, so that's the interesting thing
critique the book?
with having an author on is you assume they want to promote the book. They want to be on and talk about it. And then what do you do if you're, ho-hum on the book or something like that?
Well, that's why you go the Larry King route and you just don't read the book.
Oh, is that what Larry King?
He's never read any book of anyone he interviewed.
So he just goes, okay, tell me about it.
And he was one of the greatest radio interviewers ever.
Wow.
So
I've always been curious about that. Yeah, because I used to be a big Jimmy Fallon fan.
Yeah.
And he would say, "I loved your book."
You're like,
I'm like,
really?
Come on.
With all he's got going on? Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he's
got like a 600-page book.
Maybe he's just a power reader, or maybe he just loved being in the presence of it. It was just kind of on his table. He's like, I love this book.
Could be, yeah. Or he just Meteor Manned it. He just put his hand on it and just like instantly went to his brain.
Man, that'd be amazing. Yeah. That would be amazing. Anyway, I'll read this book.
Okay.
I'll get to it. Yeah, and we'll have him on. Yeah. I think it's good.
It takes me a really long time to read a book.
Yeah. I have developed, or maybe this is just a problem, but I can choose to blow through a book if needed, and I can still get the idea decently. And then, but there are some books where I really love to just slow down and take it bite by bite. So,
Andy, I read your book in one day.
Wow. What?
With no breaks.
Yeah, I've heard that a couple times. How? Okay, tell me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I took it on a backpacking trip,
Yeah.
a solo backpacking trip when I went by myself. I put my hammock up and I just
plowed.
went right through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was great.
Oh,
Your book
cool.
was awesome.
Thank you.
And then I just finished reading Dune because I
Uh-huh.
wanted to read the book before I watched the
Yeah.
film, and it took me like 7 months to read this book.
But that's
it's
beast.
It
right?
is,
Like,
but
yeah.
I would read it in these like very like concentrated bursts.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have to finish a chapter, or does that not
No.
bother you? You just there's a
No,
point
I
you're
usually
like,
read
okay,
before
I'm
bed,
done.
and I'll be like,
Yeah.
okay,
I'm
mid-page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah,
to bed.
I have a hard time not getting to the end of chapters. Like that, something about the thought not being completed bugs me, but I'll also find myself, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm falling asleep right now. Yeah.
Well, I wanted, so typical, like, Faith Over Breakfast, there's the dive where it gets a little deeper. And
Let's dive deeper.
Let's dive a little deeper.
Deep
Because
dive.
you preached with your wife.
Yes.
And I would love to hear, like, maybe a reflection on your experience of preaching with your wife. And then it was a heavy topic, grief and gratitude in particular, how to hold those in tension.
So how has it been since?
Well, just maybe talk about getting to do it and
Yeah.
preaching with your wife and how much you love her and like to listen to her talk, because you talk a lot about that. So.
Yeah, I really do love listening to Colleen speak. I think she's a brilliant speaker, and she's a feeler in a way that I really can appreciate and long for in my own life. I want to be
Yeah.
I want to be led by the heart, and for me, that's just not the way that I'm built. So yeah, even preparing our sermon had its ups and downs, its tense moments. Like the night before, she said something like, "I feel like we don't have the same vision for this," and that would like really trip me up. I was like, "Oh no," I like prepared this outline, and she's like, "Yeah, this doesn't reflect anything we talked about," which was a grief. It was like a loss in itself. So we practiced grief, in a kind of a minor way,
Yeah.
even like right up to the time where we spoke, and speaking there was just this incredible peace that came over me, right like as we were walking up to preach, which was just really cool. It was like we walked through like a curtain, and on the other side of the curtain was like air conditioned. It was really a neat experience. And plus, like, just to listen to Colleen, just her cantor and her word choice is so meditative and calming. So yeah, I really, I mean, I'm a human. There are some people's voices I just can't stand, and
Yeah.
there are some people's voices that are really wonderful. And yeah, just the frequency of my wife's voice is just wonderful. And then after, I anticipated kind of a sermon hangover where I'm thinking like, oh gosh, did I say something wrong? Did I not hear that person's question right, or was that too harsh? Did we rush it? Was I speaking too fast? Did I have a runny nose? Was I doing anything weird? And I didn't really have any of that. And I've spoken at our church before, and I have had that kind of hangover. And I was even telling Pastor Eric before we started recording, like, wanting to issue some sort of like redaction or fact check. Like, oh yeah, like what I said about that. Well, actually, Jesus never said that. I just made that part up.
Isn't that the worst when you say something and it comes out and you go, that wasn't right, but you can't like undo it, right? You're like,
Yeah.
hopefully nobody gets.
Yeah, forget what I said in the last 5 minutes, please. But no, and after the service, I had a lot of people come up and talk to me and thank me and ask me questions. And it wasn't that like, hey, like, thanks for preaching, thanks for being a guest preacher, like, sport. It wasn't any sort of like hollow compliment. People were like really moved by it. I got a lot of text messages, and people asked me at lunch, a few questions that I felt like I had the capacity to answer and really engage those things. So, I feel like Colleen spoke probably 75% of the time in the actual sermon. But I feel like, I was able to offer the wisdom and the gifting that I have, and also offer, let her speak from her wisdom and her gifting. So overall, I think it was really a positive experience, and I'm really excited to preach with her again on the fruits of the Spirit.
Oh, when's that?
That's in 6 weeks. We're going to speak on peace.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah, fruit of the Spirit.
One fruit. I thought so there's a lot of powerful moments in that sermon. I told you one off air, but the one that your wife offered that I just thought was just crazy to see how it impacted people was she's had this gratitude journal for 5 years. And every day she's written something she's grateful for. And so she invited the community to yell out dates, and then she would read it. And what she wrote was just so powerful. And there was one ended up being you had finished preaching. It was a Sunday that you preached.
Yeah.
So that was really cool too. And I think I was like, wow, to see that for 5 years you could offer what you were grateful for. Like you can go back at any day and know something that was good that you were thanking God for. I was like, wow, that's just amazing.
That is.
And it had a profound impact on everybody when they would ask for a date and she would read it.
Yeah.
I don't know what the dynamic there was, but it was cool. It was really cool.
And they were able to think, a guy from our community texted me saying, I joined the church at this time, because during the sermon I had shared part of my mental health issues in the past, and he said, I just joined the church at that time when things were really bad for you, Corey, and being able to see kind of where God has moved in your life since then has been really powerful for me. Wow. So I think like naming the dates of the gratitude journal and hearing what Colleen was saying, they were also able to say, I know where I was on that day.
Wow.
And maybe even this is what I was grateful for. The night before we preached, Colleen's like, do you think this is more of like a party trick and like this is like a humble brag for me to show this? And I was like, no, the world needs to know about this gratitude journal. They need to know about it. And I thought it was a precious time.
That's
it was really
cool.
Really powerful.
Yeah, that was really sweet. That was a cool thing.
And we tried it at the house the night before, Saturday night, and the kids were, they were like naming their birthdays or whatever, and we had a similar experience.
That's really cool.
Just remembering. It's really powerful to remember.
Well, in practices like that, it really is cool to share them. I've realized this, that it is hard to know when it's like the humble brag or whatever, but I think people really relate when they hear something that you have discovered that's a way to connect with God. I've noticed that most people aren't like, oh, great, thanks for bringing that up. They're like, oh, and they realize I could try something like that. Or,
right.
There are ways to kind of get out of ruts or move through things. It feels like people appreciate that. Those are the parts of ourselves we should share.
Yeah.
That's cool. Way to encourage her in that.
Yeah, and in no way was she thinking like in 5 years I'm gonna wave this thing around when it's full. Like in no way.
Which is
this
why
is it was a private thing, and God really used it as a tool to encourage others.
That's kind of the best combo, right? When that wasn't the aim of doing it.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
Well, like any good breakfast,
somebody's got to pay the bill, and
you bump up against an appointment, and you're like, oh man,
yeah,
gotta go.
So here we are.
So Corey, thanks for coming and being on.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. I really appreciate being on. And I want to, Colleen and I haven't talked about this, but I want to invite her onto your podcast because I want to hear her. I want to hear her.
Okay.
And I live with this lady, right?
And she's as big a fan of this podcast.
She's a big fan too.
Yeah, she is.
And we'll say like, hey, did you listen to, oh yeah, I listened to that. I'm like, well, what'd you think?
So we're a conversation piece between them, which is
okay.
That's a good thing.
That's great.
That's another reason why I listen to Faith Over Breakfast is because, in that silence of like, we've been married a long time, we need something to talk about. And it's you guys. So you guys are the glue.
So Corey, you've listened to this for a long time. So first I'm going to just say to everybody, faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com. Send us a question. Tip us like Corey, and you can co-host.
Go on the Cash app. Make sure that you write a little description.
Yes, tell us what you want us to use it for.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
And maybe you can invite yourself on to be a guest like I did.
Maybe
maybe you can.
It obviously worked this time.
The donation was a nice leverage for that.
Yeah, it's a good leverage.
Yeah.
I think, you would have been welcome anyway.
Welcomed on
anyway.
But
I appreciate that.
But
I
maybe
think.
the immediacy, the donation brought an immediacy to it.
That's
right?
it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
it wasn't that much, you guys.
No, it wasn't really. So I thought it'd be cool if maybe you did the intro.
Well, we got to do the outro. We got to remind people if they have a question,
right?
faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. And you put this Cash App link where?
It's on anywhere you listen.
So if you want to tip us anywhere you listen, there's apparently a button.
There's a link.
There's a link for that. Okay.
Yep.
So thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. Corey, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks a lot.
And we'll see you next time.
You've been listening to Faith Over Breakfast with Pastor Eric Siepen from The Village Church and Pastor Andy Littleton from Mission Church. Please rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Leave a comment, and if you'd like to make a donation, please use the Cash App in the description below, or email us at faithoverbreakfast@gmail.com with any of your questions.